Michael Jordan certainly had his fair share of that experience when you tick him off or provoke him. So sit back and relax as we go through some of the best Michael Jordan revenge stories.
Fresh shot clock. MJ. Oh, he did it! There, Michael shakes the finger, but he finally got his dunk on Mount the Tumble.
To start off our top one in the list, allegedly, Isiah Thomas came up with a plan to not pass Jordan the ball on purpose and convinced all the other players to do the same, which seemed to have actually worked, considering Jordan only scored 7 points for the whole night. Some people say that everyone was jealous of all the attention he was getting, until finally in 1991.
Very emotional scene as Isiah Thomas and Joe Dumars.
They swept them, causing Isiah and the rest of the team to walk off without shaking hands. And MJ took that as a slap to the face. And a few months later, Isiah would learn to regret that decision in the summer of 1991. The members of the USA Basketball Committee took note and remembered the unsportsmanlike move that Isiah did, and decided to leave him off for the 1992 Olympic team, now known as the Dream Team. At first, many were confused about that decision, but then it all started to make sense because it was rumored that Michael orchestrated the whole thing by saying that he would only play on the team if Isiah was not on the team, getting some sweet revenge with his own little freeze-out. What's more intense? Here is our top 2 list. This was in 1994, when Brian Russell, a member of the Utah Jazz, went to the gym the night before a game against Chicago. He saw Michael Jordan working out with his baseball team. He thought it was the perfect opportunity to introduce himself. So he went up to MJ and said, "Why'd you quit? I really wanted to get the chance to guard you." Jordan simply laughed it off and pretended not to care. But as we all know, Michael made sure to keep in mind what he said. After Jordan returned to the league in 1996, Jordan knew that Russell would be in attendance when Utah played. He turned to Russell and told him, "Remember back in '94? You're about to get your chance."
7, 10, Jordan a drive, hangs, fires, yes!
Would you look at that? Michael couldn't have asked for a better guy to guard him. Brian Russell claimed that Jordan obviously pushed off, but in the end, there was no proof to support his claim. Many years later, near the end of his Hall of Fame speech, MJ mentioned Brian Russell and said this.
On that point, and from this day forward, if I ever see him in shorts, I'm coming at him.
And so Russell accepted the challenge.
Just making sure I stay in somewhat shape and getting ready to call out MJ.
If you like this challenge, kindly like this video and subscribe to the channel. Then you'll complete your challenge. Moving to our top 3 list. Contrary to common belief, Jordan is able to get along with his opponents. He didn't feel like being intense all the time, and his preferred off-court activity was playing golf. But Jeff Van Gundy said that Jordan's friendliness wasn't fooling them, and said this too.
He cons him by inviting him to his movies, he cons him with the commercials, he pretends to enjoy guys and like them and befriend them.
And if Van Gundy believed he could get away with making those remarks without being held accountable, he was mistaken. He said them the day before his New York Knicks were set to play the Chicago Bulls. When the ball was thrown into the air on January 21, 1997, Jordan was reportedly cursing at Gundy as MJ finished the game with 51 points. He didn't back down at all regardless of what Gundy said to him. Jordan ran to find Jeff Van Gundy once more and continued to curse him out in the tunnel, and Van Gundy responded to this.
You regret saying some of the things throughout the course of the week about Michael Jordan.
I didn't say anything this week about it.
Let's process our second to the last. You would think that George Karl would have learned from Van Gundy's error. Have you learned as well? Maybe you are. So you're out of MJ's radar. But first, you must subscribe to this channel to be notified whenever there is a new upload. As you just heard, earlier that week when George Karl's Supersonics were preparing to play the Bulls, he claimed that Michael Jordan changed his style of play because he could no longer fly to the basket for dunks. But Michael didn't think twice to quickly respond, saying, "I'm not scared to go anywhere on the court. When teams give me the jump shot, I'll take it. If they take away the lanes, I'll go for the jump shot." Ron Harper also offered Karl some advice, saying, "If I were Coach Karl, I'd be quiet to say anything about Michael's game is ridiculous. During February 1st, 1997, this is one of the most memorable moments in the history of the Bulls, when Michael Jordan took on Coach Carr and the Seattle Supersonics in the NBA Finals. MJ was on fire, even shooting a half-court shot in front of George Karl. And so all night, Jordan maintained his dominance with this jump shot, leaving Coach Karl feeling foolish for constantly opening his mouth. But before we proceed, please don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe to this channel, and to click on the notification bell for new uploads. Lastly, for our top 5 list, this next coach, John Calipari, actually did learn to keep quiet. We all know that MJ and the 1998 Bulls were determined to complete their second three-peat, and their first opponent in the 1998 playoffs was the New Jersey Nets, with John Calipari as their head coach. And they only needed to win one more game to win by. When the first round was a best-of-5 format, the New Jersey went into Game 3 thinking they had a great chance to win this one. However, when you're up against a man who literally conjures up scenarios in his head in order to find anything that will energize him, you're likely to run into trouble. But Michael said that he found it very annoying that John Calipari was constantly screaming at his players and running up and down the court. It was just the way he coached that irritated Jordan. It appeared as though Jordan found his excuse to go ahead and torch them. Michael finished with 38 points, and after the game, John Calipari said of Jordan's death stare quote, "One thing I would never do as a coach, say anything to Michael Jordan. If he wants to stare at me, I'm not going to say anything to him. From now on, he better hide his own face." Now, this is the end of the video. I hope you really enjoy it and see you in the next video.